I'm thrilled to introduce Dr. Gilda. I've been reading all about her and just honored to be the one to introduce her today. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Gilda Carle. Dr. Gilda Carle is, she's our guest host today. She's a relationship expert, a performance expert, author, and keynote speaker. And now she's introducing her new book, Amplify Your Media, Amplify Your Brand. Welcome, Dr. Gilda Carle.
Thank you, Lisa. What a pleasure to be here again. This is like family already. So, and I loved seeing Elizabeth and Richard when they were out in Arizona. We had such a fabulous lunch. We couldn't shut up. I mean, they practically threw us out of the restaurant. We had so much fun talking. There's so much to talk about. I love talking to bright people who are out there, who are doing major things in the world, and makes me feel good. I started my career actually as a teacher in the South Bronx many, many years ago. And while I was teaching the kids language arts, reading, writing, and doing more social work than I thought I would ever, I was learning from them about street smarts. So I ended up going into corporate America after I got my PhD, because I was doing that at the same time as I was teaching, and went into corporate America, and I was training executives in how to manage more effectively for the bottom line. And when companies, major corporations, called me in to find out what was disturbing the bottom line, it was always because of one thing, and that was some kind of interpersonal problem. So I checked out the needs, and then I assessed everything around the needs, and then I went in and fixed the problems. And it was wonderful as a performance coach doing all of that. And then, of course, pandemic hit. I've also been product spokesperson for major corporations, major products, major brands, and I'm out there a lot. I've also been on every single talk show you could imagine. Fox did a show for the Dr. Gilda show, a pilot. Unfortunately, the guy overseeing the whole thing suddenly died, and all his pilots fell to the ground. So that didn't go. And when I came out to Arizona, I took a lot of talent from New York who was very interested in developing a show I had written, and we were going to present it here in Arizona, and then pandemic hit. So everything is all upside down now. And while I was watching people suffer so terribly from their computers, because suddenly everybody was a television star without training, without intention, without knowledge of what to do or any skills, I said, you know, I've done this for CEOs, I've done this for their staffs, I've done this for authors and celebrities and everybody else doing media coaching. I am going to write the all-time book that is necessary. I collated all of my notes, all the notes where I had taught MBA courses as well, in communications, collated everything and developed this book, Amplify Your Media Presence, Amplify Your Brand, because the way you present yourself in the media, and we've all seen this now more than ever before because of the pandemic, the way you present yourself is the way your brand is going to win.
Absolutely. What are your top 3 tips?
For amplifying your brand?
For your media presence, for doing well in media.
For one thing, you have to understand that the attention span today of most people is that of a flea, like a windshield wiper. Bang, 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 it's over. You have 3 seconds to grab them and 5 seconds to really pull them in. And maybe if you're lucky, they will stick around for the 30 seconds that we are used to in a commercial. If you don't do that hook immediately and really get people going, you're not going to get anywhere. They will turn you off without apology. And we have to understand that. Unfortunately, the people behind the computer screen, as they are trying to make a a favorable impression on their bosses, on their colleagues, on everybody who's buying whatever they're trying to sell in terms of ideas and integrity and everything else that's going on. Unfortunately, they have never been trained in this, and they were just thrown onto the screen. And we're trying to maintain bottom lines with people who are terrified of speaking in public, who are terrified of not putting their best foot forward, thinking on their feet or their seat or wherever. They've got to be able to just go with the flow, and they have not been trained that. So number one is understand the attention span of the audience. Number two, understand who your audience is. You have to know who you're talking to. Some guy came to me, since I'm a writer, he said, oh, could you just look at this short story I've written? I said, who is your audience? And he said, what does that mean? What does that matter? I said, that's the number one thing you have to consider. And so one of the things I put in this book is a huge needs assessment. Know your audience. Who are they? What are their demos? I sat down for the Today Show right before we were about to do a segment, and I said, tell me the demos. And the producer said, well, what? I said, I have to know who I'm talking to. And I didn't know that when they invited me in. And until I sat there, I had no idea that there are women between 40 and 60. And that skews unusually high on the high end for women who are supposed to be dead by then. And that's your audience. And so I had to speak to that audience specifically, as opposed to, I was a love doc on MTV, and that was a whole different audience. And when I did that show, it was a whole different group of people that I was talking to. I was talking to parents and their kids. And that ended up with me writing the book, Don't Lie on Your Back, for a guy who doesn't have yours.
I love that.
Yeah.
I loved that. I read through that also. So it's a very, very difficult thing to be able to do, because you're talking about a very broad audience. Who's my demographic, right? Who's
absolutely, absolutely.
And you want to appeal to this audience. You want to be
but I have to know which audience I'm speaking to at any one time. And that audience is going to change. How many times, because I was the go-to relationship expert on every single talk show, how many times I would go onto a show, and I would think, oh my goodness, this person has this issue and this issue and this issue, because I read all the pre-interviews, and then all of a sudden I'm on the stage with somebody whose husband just revealed in the presence of a studio audience that he has been doing the plumbing for the entire neighborhood, as in the female plumbing. And here's this woman going, oh my God. And I ended up holding her and hugging her for the majority of the show until she finally walked off. And then I consoled her in the green room. It was an entirely different show. And then she decided, with the assertiveness that we talked about, and I told her, you don't have to go back on there if you don't want to. And she said, no, I am feeling much stronger now. And this is what I do, capitalize your I. You can't say to somebody, I love you, with a little tiny I. Otherwise, little lowercase i's attract lowercase losers. And that's what you're going to do. So you decide what you're going to do now. And she said, I'm going back on that stage. It saved the show. And after that, my whole career just soared. And I didn't plan this. And this is number 3, since you asked for 3 points. This is number 3. Always expect the unexpected. Bingo.
Hallelujah.
That's my spiel. I'm sticking to it.
Absolutely. And you're so right. And being able to appeal to every audience is there's a practice. You have to be a personality lover. You have to be a people person to do what you do, Dr. Gilda. There's no two ways about it. A lot of people would freeze in your position. They would freeze in your position and say, what do I do? I'm throwing in the towel. You were able to address this person, right?
Well, listen, when I dealt with CEOs in the corporate setting, now I do it all online.
Mhm.
It just misses some flavor, I just
Right.
want to get out there again. But when I addressed CEOs, I came from the strength that I had learned in the South Bronx, and I taught them street smarts. And here are these nice, well-educated, very conservative types, and I'm giving them street smart training. And they say, wow. So, but I was pulling from my own background. Who ever thought I'd get a PhD in street smarts?
Are you
Who-
from the Bronx? Are you from the Bronx?
Originally, I am, yes,
Well,
but,
yeah,
but I taught in the South Bronx.
I love it. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere, right?
Well, honey, I know that's that's it. You can make it there. You can make it anywhere.
That's right.
It was tough, and I have a lot of the kids are watching me. A lot of the kids I taught it back in the day are watching me, and a few of them I was on some Broadway shows, some talk back lives after some Broadway shows, and a couple of them came for book signing to see me, to see their old teacher. Now, since that time, a lot of things have changed in my life, certainly in theirs. But here they were grown up people. Wow. It was, I never thought in a million years when I got started teaching that I would ever end up as a national relationship expert or a relationship strategist in corporate America. I never in a million years thought that. But then I do believe God gives us certain things that are presented to us. And if you are assertive enough and you know yourself, that we could add to number 4. If you know yourself and you believe that you can achieve, then you say yes. And then you say, oh no, what did I do? But that's behind the scenes. You don't tell anybody that.
Well, I feel like that's what Richard and I did with this radio show. It was not on our radar screen at all 3.5 years ago. And I wasn't really sure he'd go for it, but he jumped at it and I kind of got dragged along. And I'll tell you though, I mean, if you're able to take opportunities that present themselves, very unexpected ones, it can make a big difference in your life because we love doing this. And it's brought out aspects of ourselves that we didn't even know we had, right?
And this is a very accomplished woman, everybody who's watching. She has a PhD in
Chemistry.
of all things. And here she is talking to us
That's right.
about the law and branding and putting yourself out there, talking to all these fabulous guests. It's amazing. Life is just so rich with opportunity. All you have to do is pluck one, pluck another, and you can do a whole bunch of pluckings all at the same time.
Yeah, and I've learned so much doing the show. And Lisa's been here from the beginning. She was one of the first people on the show, weren't you?
What a pleasure too. Yes, it's always fun. Number one.
Wow.
Always. And such a wonderful opportunity to work with Elizabeth and Richard and become friends. And we feel like family and just such an honor to meet people like yourselves, Dr. Gilda and Brian. It's just, I'm thrilled. So we're going to, I want to ask you one more question before we go on to asking Brian questions about his amazing business. I need to know everything about your vitamins and everything else. But I want to ask you, Dr. Gilda, because I need to know this. You talk about having confidence on Zoom. We're thrust into this lifestyle of being on Zoom calls. Some people, you mentioned in one of your interviews, 7 to 9 times a day. And we were not trained to act or to understand lighting or backdrops. Now we're decorating our homes just to be on Zoom. The pressure, I think we talked about Zoom 19, very much like COVID-19, right? But it's Zoom 19.
That's what one guy called it. He said, forget about COVID-19. Zoom 19 is making me so anxious. This is one of the leaders.
Right. So it's in your training, and you talk about this in your book, amplify your media, amplify your brand. It's how do you do that on a regular basis with all of the minutia and the noise of the family and everything happening behind the scenes, being on Zoom, having to amplify your brand, but worrying about everything else that's going on around you?
Well, I think that, you know, we've recently read about the she session. So many women are dropping out of the marketplace, and there's a good reason for that. We know that the women are above and beyond the caretakers. Even if they hire help, they are still the overseers of the help. And so many people cannot do a million different things at once. And then that Room Raider app came upon us on Twitter, where people were look at Brian's background. Wow, he could add a green sofa there and a pink sofa there. And
distracting.
This is so upsetting to people. And of course, the hair and the makeup, all the nonsense that we have to do when we're on TV all the time.
Ascots, for God's sake.
Yes, in case you haven't noticed, Richard wears an ascot when he does the show. So since Lisa's filling in for Richard, she is wearing an ascot. Great job, Lisa.
Let me tell you something, Richard. I Googled how to wear an ascot. All right, I cannot fill the shoes of Richard. I tried the ascot. Obviously, this is not ascot style, but I did my best, and no one could ever fill the shoes of Richard. So,
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So she's making it feel all at home. But the answer in the short way is that we have got to be so focused. And even then, the audience has to have a new kind of vision for what is acceptable. We will hear the dogs barking in the background. We will hear kids whining and screaming, and underneath it all, we'll see partners squabbling and being upset with each other. The laundry has to be taken out, take down the garbage, and do all of this stuff. And it's for our leaders to understand that there has to be more leeway given to people, because this is truly, and we've heard this term because I teach business courses as well, and we've heard this term time and time again, home-life balance. Now suddenly we are truly thrown into that, and we have to be more aware and more accommodating to the balance that is necessary in the home and the life, because they're now so blended. So you've got to keep focused and make sure before you get on air with your boss, with your colleagues, with anybody, that you have set 1, 2, 3, 4 ideas. Put them on a paper and make sure you stick to them no matter what the other garbage is all around. We like to have non-noise. We like to have peace and quiet. We're liking silence, quiet, being able to do what we need to do. And now that's all changed. Now we have to be more accommodating. Did I answer the question?
You did answer the question, and you also mentioned before just getting to know who you are, knowing yourself, and not worrying so much about people looking at you like, you know, who is this person? Who does she think she is?
Well, and this is really what kills me. This is why I also talk to the teen audiences, because, you know, girls will come up to me and they say, well, I know I'm pretty, but I don't look like the covers on the magazines. And I have to shake them and I say, the covers of the magazines don't look like the covers of the magazines. Those aren't even real. They're computer generated or they're Photoshopped. You don't have to worry about competition with that. You have to worry about competition within yourself. And that's why I write and care and do speeches even at schools. Well, when I was able to do speeches that were allowed. But and that's why I talk to these kids. It's all about feeling good about yourself, and you don't have to be 65 or 16. It doesn't matter. You always have to know that before you say, I am Dr. Gilda, I have to have a capital I, so that people will not look at me with anything but, I want to hear what this person has to say.
Right.
So Dr. Gilda, are you taking clients now? Are you working with people?
Yeah, and they're all online.
And what are you doing with them? Is this one-on-one coaching? Are you doing product representations?
No, I haven't done since this pandemic, and that's why I said to Lisa, maybe you can help me. No, I haven't done that. I could sell the Brooklyn Bridge, but I would like to be on the Jumbotron again, which I was with one of my clients. I mean, I want to get out there and do amazing things, but now I'm behind the screen as everybody else is, and I have a very robust clientele from all around the world. In fact, I will say that some people in some different countries, in some different professions would prefer this because it's untraceable. One of the Hollywood stars had said to me, it's impossible. Every time I go to a therapist, the paparazzi follows me. With this, I don't have to do anything that they can follow.
So what kind of coaching are you doing now?
Well, you see, in my life, I am a relationship strategist for corporations, but it all blends in with a relationship problem always in their interactions. And sometimes people will come to me and say, I have a problem with this particular thing at my job. And then we dig deep. And because I am able to do that, we dig deep, and she's having a problem at home with her husband. And so the relationship expert part and the relationship strategist part are all blended together. So I am doing media coaching, I am doing relationship coaching, and everything in between.
Excellent. Well, we have got to go to a break. Yes, so this is Passage to Profit on WOR 710 with normally Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart, but today Elizabeth Gearhart and Lisa Askeles filling in for Richard and our wonderful guest, Dr. Gilda Carle. We will be right back.